Breakfast with Bob.
Hey everybody, welcome to Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by the Pro Triathletes organization, my Amp Human, my Velofix, my Normatec form goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest coming off a third place, her second time getting third place at Ironman World Championship in Kona. Followed that a little over a month later by winning Ironman Arizona and going like 8:49:37. Her name is Sarah Crowley. She joins us from her palatial estate in Noosa.
Hi Bob, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing it tough here in COVID up at Noosa.
Yeah, I like that. Sort of nice hearing Poncho Man, huh?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, who knows when we'll see Poncho Man, so it's good to hear him.
I know. So at this point, how are you getting through this? What are you doing?
Well, when I saw Europe go into lockdown, we're sort of a little bit behind here in Australia. And so when I saw Europe go into lockdown, I sort of put some feelers out to work out where the best place would be for training and or continue my training. And yeah, I just looked into it, and Noosa just provides everything I need. So I moved. It's only 2 hours north of Brisbane where I live, and yeah, I can do open water swimming, and there's a lot of back roads and things like that. We don't have full lockdown in Australia, so I can go outside as often as I like, which is probably not so bad compared to some of our European friends who are pretty much stuck inside for most of their day. But I got a treadmill delivered, and I've got my Wahoo kicker and everything here. So yeah, I'm pretty much down to business as normal as I possibly could be, really, except for, I guess I don't have my squad for swimming.
But you can go out and swim. It's okay to go swim.
Noosa is amazing. There's like, people will have seen it from the Noosa Tri, but basically it's a bay area without really limited waves and things, and quite clear and very warm. It's still quite warm here. It's probably, I don't know, I think the water would still be 24 degrees or something like that. So you can swim no wetsuit. And I noticed, you got the form goggles there, but I've been using those in the open water, and they've been great for timing the efforts and things like that. So yeah, it feels, apart from, obviously it's better having a pool where you can, and your coach on deck and checking your stroke all the time, but at least I'm getting out there and still getting the Ks up.
So coming off of Kona and having a really tough race, going back and forth for second and moving in the second and passing Charles. Of course I bring up that good stuff. But passing Lucy, moving in the second place, and then having Lucy come back. And you don't normally see that. When somebody gets passed late in that race, it's usually they don't come back. When you passed her, was the thought, okay, I got second?
Well, I just thought if I can keep this up, I might get second, but you don't really think about what position you're in. You just want to get through it as good as you can. I honestly didn't expect to catch Lucy at the start of the run leg. She was 8 minutes up the road by the time I got off the bike. So I just did everything I could to give myself the best chance of moving through the podium and protecting the position that I did have. And I think when I passed Lucy, it was really a matter of surviving until the finish. I probably lacked a little bit of energy near the end there. So when she came back at me, I really didn't have a lot to respond with. I was just going with my body had, and I was trying to make sure that I didn't kind of have any crawling sort of situation. If I kind of tried to chase her, I think it could have ended a lot more badly for me.
So you come off of that, and how long did it take you to think, okay, I'm feeling good enough to go do Ironman Arizona, run another marathon? A little over a month later. That's no world-class marathoner is running 2 marathons within 5-6 weeks of each other at a world-class level.
Well, the next day I actually had to do a recovery swim, and I realized it was also the same day that I had to commit to doing the Noosa Triathlon.
Yeah.
So I decided the next day, I was like, Cam, I think I'm okay. I don't know. It's a bit weird because we did go full gas on the Hawaiian Ironman. It was the goal, obviously, of the year. And I think probably before I came out to see you, I'd done a swim that morning, and I was like, I think I could do the Noosa Tri. And so it happened that was the day that you had to commit to it. And I decided, and I raced the Noosa Triathlon, and I found myself 500 meters from the finish racing an ITU, probably what will be an Olympic athlete, for a place on the podium at the Noosa Triathlon 3 weeks after Kona. And I was like, well, may as well go do Arizona now. So
you hadn't decided to do Arizona at that point.
I'd signed up for Arizona, but I'd committed to it again once I'd sort of seen my body recover okay. And you know you're on the limit though. Things start to happen with your body, and after Arizona, it's sort of, you start to get a bit of metabolic sort of problems going on. And I knew that was the end of the season after Arizona, obviously. But I was pushed it a bit far. But given that we knew there were kind of be some changes with the PTO and possible new races in the next season, we sort of wanted to get the Kona qualification out of the way as early as possible so we could be more flexible for racing this year, which has put me in a really good position for what's been happening at the moment. I'm not under any pressure to find a qualifying race once we can start racing or anything like that. So we're just putting one day together at a time now and trying to build some fitness up so that we've got that 10 to 8 weeks window where we can really hit it hard before we can choose any particular race that might suit me.
Did going 8:49 in Arizona, that surprise you? I mean, because you start doing those type of races back to back and going 8:49. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went 8:44 at Kona as well. So it was like, you're pretty quick. I think I just went in all full gas. I don't know. I was really excited about that race. I hadn't done it before. And I think I put 11 minutes into Heather on the bike in like the first 2 laps. I don't know. I went a bit crazy and I passed. I probably, I lost a bit of energy in that last lap of the bike. But I think we ran pretty similar run times. I think Heather had a pretty good race too.
She did.
I don't know. I just typically race good when I have 2 together. So the first one seems to harden me for the second one. I kind of did the same thing earlier in the year when I did Cairns and then 4 weeks later Roth, 4 or 5 weeks later. So that seems to work really well for me. And yeah, we're in such good form going into Kona and I recovered really well. So we thought we may as well go again. But yeah, I mean, it always surprises you. It surprises me that I can continue to race at that level consistently now. Yeah.
So what if the world comes back to something looking like normal? What will this year? Now like you said, you've already qualified for Kona. So if you're able to, will you be racing in July and August, or you basically sit back and wait to see what happens with Kona?
Well, I mean, for me, I'd love to do Kona. Obviously, it's the World Championship. I think for me, I had been thinking about this in the last couple of weeks because, just sort of getting a bit more focused and thinking about how it could pan out. Personally, for me, like I said, I need this first race to make my second race better. So I think that would be the biggest consideration for me, would be to try and get a race against some really good competition at a championship level enough time out from Hawaii so that I have my best performance in Hawaii. We're not going to have that indicator earlier in the year to see where we need to improve or the things that we need to address unless we have that race. And it needs to really be a full iron distance event. So that would be probably the thing I'll start to look for once things start to open up. But who knows? I mean, perhaps it might have to be in Asia Pacific initially, in Australia or New Zealand or something like that. But, with travel restrictions. And then the other thing would be to consider, I guess, when and how the quarantine situation works. If we do travel, do we get stuck in quarantine? Can we travel easily and move freely around the world? Short of that, I guess there's challenge events like Daytona and those kind of races. I mean, Ironman Florida and that sort of stuff later in the year. So those are on the radar at the moment. But yeah, I'm just enjoying training in sunny Noosa and trying to just make sure everything stays happy and fun for now.
Talk a little bit PTO, Pro Triathletes Organization, a new group. I know they've been working on it for 4 years or so, but from your perspective, when did you first hear about it and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I met Charles Adamo, I think, at the Island House in 2017. So that was my first exposure to it. We had a presentation, and so I know that roadshow had been going around a little bit before I had seen it. I do think perhaps after that point in time, maybe they slowed the roadshow down a little bit. So there was a little bit of confusion perhaps at the start of this when everyone was kind of signing on and agreeing to it what it actually represented, because athletes turn over quite quickly at the professional level. And so they've done a really good job exposing everyone to it initially. And so I think for me, I understood what was happening, and I could only see it as a good thing to have that sounding board and group together to kind of make decisions about the racing. It's always been a bit out of control for the most part of my career. And I know, say, coming from ITU, where it's very structured and you know what you're signing up for, I guess going into the professional field and the long course, there's never really that kind of structure to stuff. And yeah, so I think it provides, you know, obviously it provides a framework where we can have some sounding board for any issues that we do have. And I guess races will hopefully come together in a bit more of a season, which can then be broadcast, and which will elevate the athletes as public figures, which I think is really good. Bring more sponsorship to the sport. And yeah, further down the rankings, people can make a living. It's not just the top 5 or 10, which would be good.
Right. It would be really good. So when you look at Kona, the first time you're there, 15th as pro, 15th and 3rd, then 6th and 3rd. What is it about that place that seems to work for you?
I'm really lucky. I think I react really well to hot conditions. I have a low sweat rate, so naturally I race very well in hot conditions. I think that's that's always a good start. But I think also I just enjoy the big race environment. I don't get too nervous about it, but I really enjoy having that higher level of competition. It somehow manages to lift me. There's something about Hawaii. It's not just the race and the history of the race, but there's the conditions, the terrain, and the competition. And so, yeah, I spent all year working on all those 3 kind of things, like racing, training in hard conditions, racing the best competition, and then, yeah, dealing with difficult climates and those kind of things. So, yeah, I feel like I get there, and it's not now. I mean, the first year I was probably a little bit of a deer in headlights, but now I really look forward to it, and I'm not scared of it. But yeah, I've just had great races there, and I think it some people, it brings the best out of them. I'm lucky that's the case for me.
When you finished 3rd there in 2017, how did that change your world? Did all of a sudden more sponsors appear, more commitments, or was it, or didn't it?
I think in the first year it was a little bit. It probably wasn't as much as perhaps last year. I think I definitely had a better performance last year. I was really impressed with myself. Like I really think that was one of my best races I've ever had. I think in 2017 it was such a really quick trajectory because I just won 2 regional championships in the long course world. And so for me, I didn't probably really recognize what was happening as much as I did sort of soak it in a bit more this year. Obviously, I signed some pretty significant contracts following that race, which have been now long-term sponsors and great supporters of me in the last few years. But yeah, I think probably this year it's probably stepped up a lot more following this race because your public figure, your exposure is already at that level. And so, yeah, I guess it just brings more attention to you. Whereas before it probably just helped me to establish myself. So yeah, I mean, different case each time, but yeah, definitely this year was a better actual performance for me, I think.
When you look back, I mean, you've won in Frankfurt, you've been 2nd in Roth, you've won down South American championships, you've Asia Pacific championships. What do you look at as the best you've ever had?
I still think I probably would say Kona last year was probably my best performance so far. I think everything came together in that race, and it really just was the outcome of other people's races that dictated the outcome of the actual result. Like there's areas where I can still work on and improve, but I put everything together pretty well last year, and I think if I can do that again, you're going to be right there. So yeah, I'd say that so far that's probably my best performance that I've had.
The women's side of this has gotten so deep, right? With Daniela Reef and Annie Hogg and Lucy Charles and yourself and Heather Jackson. It goes on and on. When you're planning your schedule, do you try to see who's racing where, and you want to go against the best, correct?
Oh, absolutely. So basically, we look to try and hit up against one of the top 5 at each of the races that I do leading into the Hawaiian Ironman. So basically, if we can get to Kona having raced, say, 3 or 4 of the top 5, then we know where we need to work on and those things. And so it does help with the preparations for Kona. And also, I guess it helps me to prepare my mind to race those athletes. So then once again, you're not so frightened when you come to the press conference and it's full of like these amazing athletes. It just helps, I think, psychologically. So you're trying to, depends on who signs up for what, but and then also we have a schedule that we tend to work towards that we've worked out seems to work for me. So hopefully some of those people, I mean, and there's also more people are getting better now. Like you turn up to any race and you'll be faced with some pretty steep competition these days. Everyone's going under 9 hours. Everyone's running under 3. So yeah, it's impressive.
So when you went to Noosa last year, is that an Olympic distance race?
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a little shock to the system.
Yeah, it is. You know what? Just between you and I and everyone watching, that actually Olympic distance is actually my favorite distance.
Is it really?
Non-drafting for sure. It's my jam. I love it. Yeah, I love running fast, but I actually have to train a little differently to what I'd prefer to do with my running. I get in trouble all the time for running too fast. But I really enjoy Olympic distance. Unfortunately, my swim wasn't at the level when I did ITU, but it would have been good to have explored that a little bit more. But yeah, it definitely is. In fact, Noosa is probably one of my favorite races. I think Kona and Noosa, they're right up there. Santa Cruz, that's the other one I really enjoy.
Yeah, you won that. Yeah. Santa Cruz is a lot of fun. Actually, they just opened up the beaches at Santa Cruz, so people.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get up there. It'll be a little colder than it is right now where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cold over in California up that part of it.
Yeah. So there was a point in your career because you raced bikes and you raced, like you said, you raced ITU. But there was a point where you sort of walked away from triathlon to really focus on the individual side of it, right? To focus on just running or focus on just cycling. Was that done so that you could come back to triathlon as with more arrows in the quiver, that you would be a better triathlete at the end of the day?
Well, I think it was just a little bit of me just branching out because I didn't have the best experience towards the end of my ITU career, and I just wanted to try some new things. But they happen to work really well with long course, 5-day cycle race events, road series racing and stuff. I guess builds the legs up so that you can cope with the longer distances. It probably gave me the belief that I could even do a half Ironman, which I think sometimes for short course athletes, it's such a big step up. Now I don't even understand how I thought it was so difficult. But yeah, I think it kind of helped with my mindset to understand that I could do that longer stuff. And I did a bit of running as well, just pure running for a little bit, just to dabble in that and see if I could do that. But the problem with being a triathlete is you're always kind of second at everything until you do a triathlon, then you can maybe win that. But in the individual sports, you're never at the level. It's really frustrating.
You're going, I can't win here. What the hell? But then you put it all. Then you take the skills you gain from cycling and the skills you gain from just pure running, and you bring in the triathlon. All of a sudden, you're winning stuff. Different concept.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, has there been much conversation about, hey, this year it might just be a regional year? People in Australia are going to have to stay in Australia, and there's not going to be a lot of international travel, or what are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, from Australian perspective, we've coped with the virus really well, and we've locked down quite well. And I think what will happen, I mean, internally our borders are closed between different states, so you can't easily travel between even, say, Queensland and New South Wales. So everything's shut down really hard, and the levels of the virus are, flattened right out. It's very minimal new cases and things on a daily basis now. So how I see it panning out in Australia is perhaps each state, as the cases drop off, they might reopen their businesses and get things back to normal. And then perhaps over time, it will then be reopen borders between states. In probably when that happens, it might be okay to run some local events. We have a good system of local events in Australia, so we're pretty lucky. We've got some really established long-term old school races that are good. So I think a lot of people will probably tend towards those initially, obviously, and then perhaps New Zealand travel. I know they've gone quite well with their control as well, so we might have some sort of Australia to New Zealand type travel. But I guess for us, our usual races in this region are a lot in Asia, and I think that's probably going to be pretty difficult initially. I'm not sure. Hopefully the 70.3 World Championships and Kona still go ahead, but they're the ones that obviously are the big ones that we're trying to get to.
What's when you got into this as a pro, was there a thought that, okay, I think I'll make a really good living doing this? What was the motivation when you got in? Yeah.
No, the motivation has always been to be better. Pardon?
Yeah, I'll do this for a while and then I'll go back to my real job.
Yeah, so I'm a chartered accountant. Yeah, like I'm an accountant normally. I never expected, especially in ITU. I mean, I never made really much money at all. We're funded. It's a government funded type system in the shorter course. So when I stopped doing that, I went back to work. And I guess the second time was really just to have one last shot. And my current coach happened to be returning to triathlon. He'd been off doing directing a cycling team, and we managed to match our careers back up as he was kind of returning from his cycle directing. I was sort of considering going and doing long course as a professional career. Never did I set out to make money, and I assumed I was going to lose money right up until like sandbag money before, because I knew it was all about the pursuit of the best I could be. But then once we unlocked the swim, it just changed everything for me. It really elevated me from, say, someone that would always get on the podium to winning races and then winning big races. So I think 2017 things changed, and I changed the way I thought about it. I guess set it up more as a business, and I guess acted a little bit more professionally about it. But it was never something I expected to make living off of it all. But it's great now, and if the PTO comes through and we are able to race these major events and it's televised and all that sort of stuff, then hopefully it provides that opportunity for others to come.
There's a lot of ITU athletes out there. Do you hear from some of the younger women ITU athletes asking about, hey, what's it like stepping up the longer distance? Because you're right, there's really not a way in this day and age for someone to make a living as a Olympic distance non-drafting athlete, which should be the transition from ITU to Olympic non-drafting, which when we had the Lifetime Series in the US and Chicago and New York, and there was actually a pretty good circuit. Now, when you leave the Olympic movement, you got to go 70.3 or full Ironman. That's a huge jump. Do you hear from some of those athletes asking really how tough is it, and is it something I can do?
I don't hear a lot from them, but I guess locally I probably do more, maybe with not so much your Flora Duffy type level people, but right. I do hear from people that maybe have trickled out of it, where maybe it didn't work out so well for them locally, and some of them trained, say, within our squad. And you always just provide that sort of guidance, because for me it wasn't an easy transition either. You don't know if you'll do any good at it, and it's the first one or two are pretty challenging, and you often don't perform that well for a while. You've really got to get a lot stronger. So I just try and give, I guess, mentor in that sense. It's usually people that are in nearby where I can probably give face-to-face contact with. But I don't hear a lot from the real high level kind of guys racing the ITU circuit. But you know what? In the end, a lot of people just find their way into what makes them, I guess, where they perform the best. So, we do see people that you see Liz Blatchfords and Annabelles and that they do eventually come through because they're just good at it. And so, yeah, hopefully that continues, because there is a future in the long course stuff. Yeah, it's just a shame though that there's not too many non-drafting Olympic races going around anymore. That used to be the step up, right? Hmm.
Was such an amazing year for you, ITU World Champion and Asia Pacific champion and Ironman Frankfurt, and that's the European champion. And then you go and get third in Kona. What led into that? What usually that stuff doesn't just happen. There was a breakthrough in training. Something happened leading into 17 to make that such a breakthrough year for you.
Yeah, I think my actual breakthrough race was probably Bahrain 70.3 in December 2016, because that was the first time I actually really won a regional championship in a major race. So I think I'd probably won about 4 or 5 halves, but they were always kind of like smaller Asian races or, continental level events. But really what had led to that was, I guess, the change in my swimming technique that we'd invested by that point a year into. When I first changed my swim stroke with Cam, we went backwards significantly, and I just had to bear with it. And I think we did a race in 2016 where I didn't perform any worse with the new stroke, and so I committed to it from then on. And probably, I guess, once I'd spent a few camps of training overseas with both Cam and Tri-Sado, I guess in Switzerland and stuff, I guess, yeah, I had enough people looking at my stroke, and enough things had been changed, and it had settled in enough that I could make some bigger gains. And in Bahrain, I got out and I was only maybe 40 seconds behind Caroline Steffen, and I think that was a realization for me that, wow, I actually have made some gains here. And I guess by the time we then put another 4 or 5 months into it, going into Cairns, it was, I was legitimately improving my swim. By the end of the year, I was out in the main pack, the front pack in 17 in Kona. So, yeah, that was really the breakthrough. I'd always had the ride and the run. Obviously, unlocking the swim, it also reduced the amount of energy required for swimming. So by improving my swim, my ride and my run even got better.
Now, how are you improving now? Obviously, you had those big breakthroughs, and you've consistently improved. How do you do that? When you get to a certain point, you feel like, okay, is this where I'm going to be, or how do I get faster? And in this day and age, with all these people coming over from ITU, you got to get faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so I guess for me, we've taken a lot of notes every year, and there's little changes that we've made, even with the swimming last year, that weren't fully capitalized on for this year. And so, obviously when you're in the top in the world, you don't have to do anything significantly different to keep going back and performing well, but you do need to keep chipping away at changes. And I guess this year we've just looked at continuing with a few things that we picked up on that were working towards the end of last year that saw those great results, and then sort of really cementing those in. And then, just getting my head in the right place as well. I think there's still a little bit that we can get from just reducing the amount of noise in my life, and I guess just making things a lot easier and straightforward on a day-to-day basis. So, there's little ways that we can reduce stress and just get focused on, I guess, just putting my best effort in every day.
But must be hard to sit inside and talk to me when you could be out there, and look how beautiful that is behind you. I feel like we're at the Four Seasons, and you're at the Four Seasons, and I'm freaking here in San Diego's not so bad, but it's not. It doesn't look like Noosa. That water looks beautiful.
Yeah, I'm very privileged. I'm very lucky that this is in our backyard. It's great to be an Australian. But look, hopefully we can catch up in person still this year sometime, Bob, and it's always a pleasure having a chat.
And hopefully if things work out, maybe we'll get you over here a week after Kona to come for the Best Day in Tri, our CAF event. I know you got a chance.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to.
In Arizona, and those guys were like, we got to get Sarah to SDTC.
Yes, awesome.
Really
say hi to them for me.
I will. Thank you so much for always taking time and just always bringing your great personality to the game. Really appreciate it, Sarah.
Cheers, Bob. Pleasure.
Sarah Crowley has been our guest. Again, we're brought to you by the PTO Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, by Velofix, by Normatec, Form Goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We'll catch you next time.